What's up guys, welcome back to this channel. I am so excited because we are 1 day away from the worldwide release of Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Now before its release, I kind of wanted to dive deep and just analyze what type of reception this movie is gonna get. As of the recording of this video, we have the reactions from the people that went to the premiere, and the reactions have been pretty stellar so far, with a lot of people even saying that this might even be a top 5 MCU film. And that got me thinking, what are the box office chances of Black Panther Wakanda Forever? Could it be a $1 billion movie? Could it be a $2 billion movie? This is certainly going to be one of the biggest films of the year, and I'm here to analyze how much it's going to make. Now, the first Black Panther movie was quite a surprise hit back in 2018. It opened to just a little bit over $200 million, which is quite a feat. I know we've gotten used to that type of number, but you have to remember, in 2018, only really the Avengers, Star Wars The Force Awakens, Star Wars The Last Jedi, and Jurassic World were the only movies in history to crack $200 million. So the fact that Black Panther did it as a standalone superhero movie film was a big deal. And the movie turned out to also have legs. It ended up making nearly $1.3 billion, almost as much as Avengers Age of Ultron at the global box office. And this was a pretty huge deal because this was the first time you had an all-black led movie of this scale making billions of dollars. I do believe that the momentum of the Phase 3 movies and Black Panther being the last one right before Infinity War is what propelled Infinity War and Endgame to make well over $2 billion at the global box office, because Black Panther not only was the highest rated MCU movie to date by Rotten Tomatoes standards, but it's also the only superhero movie to have been nominated for Best Picture. Now, I think all those factors matter when trying to decipher how much money Black Panther 2 can potentially make at the box office. It has been 4 years since the last Black Panther standalone movie, but we have seen him in Infinity War play a significant part and play a smaller role in Endgame. And of course, I will get into how the unfortunate death of Chadwick Boseman plays into all of this. I think that the fact that Black Panther Wakanda Forever is coming off of an Oscar-nominated, box office breaking, well-received, well-liked movie that kind of had a big impact on the overall culture by telling the world that the MCU is not just for one specific group of people, it's open to all races and ethnicities. I think that helps Black Panther 2 because you're gonna have a lot of non-traditional Marvel moviegoers going to this movie. You're gonna have a lot of people that are not superhero fans, but they just want to see the diversity and the representation on screen on the big budget Hollywood blockbuster. And I think that's what propelled the first Black Panther movie to make as much money as it did, not only because it was kind of something new that you don't see often in Hollywood, but thanks to the expertise of Ryan Coogler and Kevin Feige. The movie was also on its own a really good movie that people bonded with, people connected with, and I think it did have an impact story-wise. I think all of that will be true for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I personally don't think that Ryan Coogler has made a bad film in his whole career, and of course Kevin Feige is the genius that you all know and love, and you know, the cast and crew are gonna kill it in this movie. Of course, there is the unfortunate death of Chadwick Boseman, and I hate to say it, but his death will probably propel this movie to make a lot of money. We've seen a lot of evidence of famous actors that are part of big franchises that their lives get taken away before their finale, and the movie breaks even more money than it would have made had the actor not passed. We've seen this with Heath Ledger and The Dark Knight. It caused a lot of media attention to go towards the release of that movie, and the movie just broke records, even more money than I believe it would have if Heath Ledger was still alive. And the same thing sort of happened with Furious 7, with the highly publicized death of Paul Walker and also the brutality of how he died and the sadness of it all. It kind of just pushed a lot of people to go watch the movie. People that weren't normally Fast and Furious fans just went out to see how his last outing in this massive franchise would be done. And I think you'll get this effect with Black Panther 2. Now, the current tracking estimates for Black Panther 2, last time I checked, it was somewhere between 175 to 200 million dollars. Most likely 180 million dollars, I think, is where the estimates were landing around. And I personally believe that it will all depend on the reviews when the embargo lifts on November 8th. I think that it will come just right under what the first Black Panther movie made, but I think it would still make well above what most standalone superhero movies make. So my prediction is that, assuming this movie gets good reviews, this movie I think will make similarly to what Age of Ultron made. I think it will land somewhere around 190 million for its domestic opening weekend. Now, the reason why I'm being a little bit conservative with the number, and the reason why I think it'll open to less than what the first Black Panther movie is because of a number of factors. We are still dealing with this pandemic. It's still not the same as in 2018 or 2019. We still got a lot of people who used to go to movie theaters once or twice a year that just don't go anymore. Also, it's kind of been imprinted in people's brains now that the movie will just come to streaming after a month. Unlike before, where people kind of expected a 3-4 month window before seeing this movie on VOD, now a lot of people that are on the fence of this movie will just wait the month and watch it on Disney Plus when it comes out there. In addition to, Black Panther 2 has virtually no competition all the way till Avatar comes out in late December. I know it has The Fabelmans and Knives Out 2 that are two big profile movies coming out in the next couple of weeks, but I don't think those movies are capturing the same demographic that Black Panther 2 is trying to capture for the most part. Those two movies are more for Oscar bait audiences. I know Black Panther 2 is kind of treading in that territory of Oscar bait, but for the most part, I think the vast majority of its audiences are going to be, genre fans, superhero movie fans, normies, probably some families. But this movie is a little long, so that might hinder that a little bit. Now, another thing that is hindering this movie's box office potential is the fact that it is not getting released in China, which the first Black Panther movie did get released in China and benefited a lot from that release financial wise. According to Box Office Mojo, the final tally of what the first Black Panther movie did in China was $105 million. Now take that in. $105 million. This movie is potentially leaving $100 million on the table by not being released in China, and it's probably even more. The Chinese film market has only grown even more since 2018. Now, I know they're dealing with severe lockdowns and whatnot, but still, you're leaving at least $100 million on the floor. So if this movie comes out in every other market and exceeds the box office of the first movie, it could still end up having a lower worldwide total than the first Black Panther movie, simply because it is banned from China, which is a pretty big detriment to this movie. And not only that, but consider too that this movie will feature an LGBT character, which I think is great and I celebrate it. I have no issue with that. But keep in mind, based off what we've seen recently with movies like Lightyear and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, that it's not just China, but a lot of countries in Asia and the Middle East will simply just not release this movie just because there's an LGBT character in it, and Disney, to their credit, are standing by their film and they will not cut the scenes out. So that's still a couple hundreds of millions of dollars being left on the table from the box office. Now, how much money do I think this movie ultimately is going to make on a domestic North America level and worldwide? Well, let me just say this first. I don't expect this movie to exceed the box office of the first Black Panther movie. I don't think this movie will make more than $1.3 billion, simply because it's facing way more hurdles than the first movie was. I don't think this movie can be like a Top Gun Maverick and just crawl its way to massive box office returns over a span of a few months, because unlike Top Gun, in just a month's time we got a massive juggernaut of a movie, Avatar 2. which will break records. As soon as Avatar 2 comes out in theaters, it's gonna be over. It's simply just gonna dominate the box office for 2 months until Ant-Man comes out in February. So with all of that being said, I do think this movie will be a big hit. I think that once it's all said and done, it will tally at $1.2 billion worldwide. And since most of the world will be preoccupied with the World Cups, with the exception of here in Canada and the United States, is a pretty massive deal for most people on the planet. And of course, there's countries that ban the movie. I think a big chunk of this movie's box office will be coming from the domestic market. So I think somewhere between 50 to 60% of the box office will come from North America, and domestically it will be one of the highest grossing movies ever. I do expect it to make somewhere between 600 and 700 million domestically. And as I've said before, I think this will open to around $190 million this opening weekend, and I'm expecting it to open to around $300 million worldwide this opening weekend. Alright, I want to thank you guys again for listening to my box office predictions for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I really appreciate you guys. You guys should definitely hit the subscribe button, like and comment on this video. Tell me what you think. Do you think I've put out some outlandish numbers? Do you think it's just right? Let me know in the comment section below, and watch out next time for my review of Black Panther Wakanda Forever.